It was a crisp October morning. Usual day. In class, getting work done. Then, I was called to the counselor's office randomly during my English class, which, I'm gonna be totally honest, wasn't my favorite class anyways. I had no idea what to expect. Was I key witness for a situation at school? Or was I about to have the talk with the counselor? It's what everybody went to the counselors for. But the counselor had a different plan for me. Upon entering the room, she handed me a high school catalog, almost as if I was going house hunting or browsing for a brand new car. She asked me to spend 15 minutes looking through the book and taking note of everything that catches my eye, whether that be location, opportunity, or even if I just liked how the school looked. She told me to take note of everything that catches my eye. So after about spending 15 to 20 minutes, I found 5 schools that I connected with, whether it be because of the school's reputation around the city or what I believe my future could entail by choosing that school. And so now it was time to put in the work. My counselor gave me a rundown on what to expect throughout the process, including which schools I'd have to audition for, or if I had an essay to write along with my application, and deciding on my final ranking that every school would see on my application. My counselor made sure that I was so prepared that being denied from any of the magnet schools would be impossible. And those efforts proved to pay off when I got accepted to 3 out of 5 of the high schools, all being for the magnet school selection. The other 2 I didn't get accepted to didn't say I was denied because of my grades, but instead because I wasn't selected by the lottery system. So, what's the infamous lottery system in Philadelphia? Well, lottery systems have been around for a while, and generally they've been used to reserve spots for students who aren't able to go to the merit-based schools. Instead, they're offered lottery school selections, such as High School of the Future, a Bill Gates funded high school. Especially in a city like Philadelphia, where the high student population count throughout the city can cause some schools to be filled or provide opportunities for students who think they may not have a chance to get the education that they deserve. Many of these schools, like High School of the Future, provide new opportunities and decent funding for students to truly take advantage of their education throughout their high school years. However, these schools do have higher suspension rates because there is no criteria behind the selection. If you get selected by the system, you're in. To properly dissect the lottery system issue happening in Philadelphia, we need to go back to COVID and how that changed the entire system. Philadelphia is one of the school districts throughout the country who closed schools for another school year amid spikes in COVID infections and the lack of vaccinations throughout the city. Usually counselors would do the application process with students face-to-face, in person, so that they can ensure that everything is done correctly and to the best benefit of the student. However, this year, they were going to be doing applications through Zoom. This was a brand new process for counselors who, while they've used technology before to submit applications, also do much of their work through regular paper and mail, which could include files left back in the school, which were sometimes closed even for teachers. There were also communication issues between students and teachers, as some students did not have the technology in order to communicate between teachers and counselors. In fact, the city had to provide free Wi-Fi for all students, as well as free laptops for students to use while conducting classes through Zoom in asynchronous. We also know of the issue of disengagement, as during this time, students being home all day led to more disengagement and less learning throughout the year, leaving many students unprepared for the next grade. COVID also brought light to one of the most important and impactful movements in American history, the Black Lives Matter movement. George Floyd's wrongful death sparked protests throughout the country. Many focused on the issue of race and the various systems in place that harm minorities in America. This inspired the school district to focus on equity and fairness throughout their systems. This push for equity, however, has led to one of the most controversial school issues in Philadelphia, being the universal lottery systems for special admitted schools, aka magnet schools. The school district introduced this policy to further diversify their schools and create more equitable opportunities for students across all backgrounds, identities throughout the city and its families. This new system would aim to blindly choose who would be accepted. As the school district describes this new system, free of human bias. However, personal experience as well as testimony from other teachers have shown this system may not be working the way we thought it would. My brother recently went through this process last year, and it was very puzzling to say the least. First off, the teacher didn't even offer to have in-person meetings with the students, only through Zoom. While this may just sound like a getting with the times issue, I remember how frustrating this was when I had to do my college application process through Zoom. I remember myself, as well as my peers, always being confused about what to do next, because the Zoom meetings just weren't helpful. Sometimes it felt like the counselors were taking a step back, and I remember my brother explaining that to me as well. She didn't sit him down like she sat me down to try and get to know him and help him choose the best option for himself. Rather, she gave him some schools and said, if you like it, apply. If not, don't. This was also the first year they were implementing the lottery system, which you'd think she would let him know about it, but she never did. And so he applied to all magnet schools and did all the auditions for them. But in the end, he only got accepted to one of the schools. When we inquired about why he got rejected, every school gave us the same answer. He wasn't chosen by the lottery system. Now, one may brush this off and say it's just bitterness over something small. However, this has been felt by many parents throughout the city, with some even saying that the child didn't get accepted to any of their schools. Here's an example of this.
This lottery is part of the district's new admission policy for specialty schools, and it has a lot of families unhappy with the process.
She applied to 4 schools and was waitlisted at all of them. Like thousands of families, Sharice must now weigh her options.
Protests at City Hall and the district building from both parents and students have been sparked throughout the last year, with calls for transparency about the statistics regarding how the lottery systems are affecting students of color and families of color, and if aspects like zip code and socioeconomic status are being put into play as students are being chosen in this quote-unquote blind system. Last spring, I visited my old high school to do some class observations for one of my other classes, and the topic of this new lottery system got brought up, as I told him that my brother had applied to the high school but didn't get accepted, simply because his name wasn't chosen in the lottery system. When I brought this up, felt similar concerns and issues regarding the lottery system. In fact, my old high school English teacher, who was one of the heads for the creative writing department at the school, revealed to me that for the first time in 20 years, the freshman class is a majority white. Teachers also revealed how this system works to me. Prior to this new system's implementation, teachers would create a list ranking students solely on their talents, as the school was a talent school. If you were ranked the highest, you were more likely to get into the school rather than someone who was ranked lower. Now, this process could expose issues of bias especially racial, gender, and other forms of discrimination. However, the school is known for serving Black and brown students throughout the Philadelphia community. Now, however, the teachers are saying that the new system interferes with the school's purpose of highlighting students with miraculous talents, such as writing, dancing, singing, and theater. Rather than admitting students based on their talents, they're being admitted based on showing up to the audition. So not only are parents upset with this new admissions process, but teachers as well. They believe these policies, which were implemented to provide more opportunity and equity to students of color as well as different backgrounds, has had the opposite effect. In fact, my teacher told me that there were less applicants of color this year compared to any other year, which my teacher attributed to the controversy last year surrounding lottery systems. So instead of encouraging more students to apply, we're actually pushing students away. This also puts into question why the school district refuses to release data regarding the policies and if they were truly diversifying and creating more equitable opportunities for students. So the question is, what can we do? Well, in Philadelphia, we don't elect our school board members, which is part of the issue in my opinion, as it's less representation for a community which is made up of mainly Black and brown families. I'll go more into this in my next episode, but these school board meetings need to hear the voices of families who are being affected by these policies, and their concerns shouldn't only be heard after a protest at City Hall. The city has brushed this topic off for a while now, but I think it's finally time to address it. The policies have good intentions, they just need reform. And without the reform, we'll be pushing Black and brown students out of schools instead of in schools.